All right, we can take this a lot of places. I think that President Obama's got a problem. You know, if you look at the initial polling, Americans are going, look, we don't like the Obama anti-terrorist strategies. Am I wrong?
Well, I think it's deeper than that. The United States has a problem. If this was just a political matter, then you could have one level of concern. But the fact is that we are in a war. Our enemies are clever enough to take a Nigerian, train him in Yemen, ship him through Amsterdam. Our bureaucracy is so lacking in focus that even when this guy's father called the American embassy and warned us specifically about his son, we couldn't find a way to stop him. And frankly, the White House advisor yesterday made no sense when he said there was no smoking gun. We don't have to approve the visa or the flight of every foreigner who wants to come here. The burden of proof ought to be on that person. If somebody's father calls and says, you know, my son's gone pretty radical, I think he may be in a training camp, I think there ought to be a pretty high hurdle for that person to get a visa to the United States, or be allowed to fly into this country.
You know that the bureaucracy is always going to screw up. I mean, it's just never going to be entirely perfect. And, you know, this flight emanating in the Netherlands, and the way they do things is different than the way we do things. And now this overreaction, they're patting down everybody and all of that. But the essential question is, in your opinion, are we safe? I mean, are these people going to be able to get through the shield? And has the Obama administration weakened our defenses against al-Qaeda?
We are not safe. We are in much greater danger than we were a year ago. And it's not just Bush versus Obama. The North Koreans have had an additional year to build nuclear weapons and missiles. The Iranians have had an additional year to develop their nuclear weapons and to keep paying for terrorists. Al-Qaeda's had an additional year. And by the way, 2 of the top 4 people in Al-Qaeda in Yemen were released from Guantanamo. The Obama administration continues to release terrorists back into the world.
But Bush did that. Bush released those 2 guys. That was under the Bush administration. He was wrong in
the State Department was wrong in the initial releases. We now have absolute proof they're back in combat.
Yep, there they are.
One estimate by the defense, one estimate is that 74 of the released terrorists from Guantanamo have gone back to active terrorism against the United States. I think we have to confront the fact this is going to be a much bigger, much harder war than we thought it was. If you look at the list that this guy was on, it's 10 times the size of the no-fly list. Now, that tells you that the problem may be dramatically bigger than anybody in the administration wants.
There's about 500,000 people on that list that you refer to. But see, look, I don't understand a lot of things that are going on right now in our government. I don't understand the drive to close Guantanamo, why it has to be done so quickly. I don't understand why Khalid Sheikh Mohammed is being tried here in New York City when that's insane. I don't understand why this guy, the Nigerian, wasn't handed over to the military for interrogation and now he's lawyered up in Michigan. I don't get any of that. Do you understand what's driving it?
Let me add one more piece to it, Bill, and then offer you a suggested answer. The president recently signed, very quietly, an executive order that basically releases Interpol from all American constraints. Freedom of Information Acts don't apply. All the constraints that you as a citizen could use against an American police force based on a recent Obama-signed executive order give Interpol, which has relationships with Syria, with Libya, with Iran, it gives them all sorts of extra legality in the United States in a way that has never, ever before been offered to Interpol. And I'm very curious as to why the president is doing this. I believe what you have is a group of people centered in the Justice Department and the Attorney General whose law firms all gave pro bono support to terrorism. They start every day with the presumption that the rights of terrorists are more important than the lives of Americans. Everything they've done is biased.
I mean, why would anybody do that, though? Number one, the Interpol thing, what's the importance of giving Interpol more authority? What's the importance of that?
Well, what I'm told is that it could lead to a number of investigations by Interpol in the United States, potentially aimed at American officials. And the question I would raise is, why would the President of the United States give that kind of extra legal protection to an international police force?
Okay, so you're saying that if there was any abuse by the CIA or something like that, that Interpol now has more authority to come into the United States and investigate it. Okay,
yes.
I got it. But look, do you really believe Eric Holder, the Attorney General, gets up every day and says, you know, I'm more concerned with terrorists than I am with my own family, protecting my own family? Come on, that's impossible to believe.
Why?
Well, why would any rational person want to give more protections to a terrorist than their own family? Why would any rational person want to do that?
Well, I didn't. You interjected the word rational.
You think that Holder's irrational? You think he's a nut?
I believe that Holder the Attorney General, believes that protecting the rights of terrorists, for example, why would you take a Nigerian national who just tried to blow up a plane over Detroit, remember, to create maximum damage on the ground as well as in the air? This was a very intelligently designed attack if it had worked. Why would you take that person, put them in the American criminal justice system, give them an attorney, read them their Miranda rights? You explained when you put all the dots together, why would you be releasing people back to Yemen, which is the center of terrorism?
I don't understand.
Why would you?
I don't know why. I just simply don't know why. I oppose all of the things that you mentioned, but I can't believe a guy like Eric Holder puts the terrorists and their situation above his own family. You know, look, if Washington, D.C.
personalizes it that way. I mean, Bill, I don't think he personalizes it that way. I think that he thinks that he lives in a world where somehow the United States is dangerous and the United States government is dangerous. But after all, let's go ahead and, for example, trying these terrorists in New York City in a criminal court is a terrible idea.
I know it is, and I'm trying to get the why behind. Look, theoretically, the left wants all of this garbage, but when you see the guy on the plane, your daughter could have been on the plane. You see the guy groping with his underwear trying to blow the plane up, and as you said, as soon as the plane lands and the FBI comes on board, they hand him over to the civilian authorities rather than handing him over to the military, which could do many, many more things to find out who the guy is and what's going on. I'm not getting it. I'm going to continue to investigate. Mr. Speaker, we appreciate your point of view. Thanks for being a first guest on this decade of The Factor.